you have to do something about it. You have to hand down policies that provide help, grant aids, so on and so forth, to the southern territories. Same for Portugal, same for Greece, so on and so forth. Second, these rules oblige the European Union to do something about it in two ways. One way is to develop a policy, cohesion policy. Second is to put money. That's why from 1957 on, there were structural funds created. Have you heard of them? Structural funds are funds, cohesion fund, for example, social fund, regional fund, which, you know, have an enormous amount of money, and these funds work in order to develop the disadvantaged territories, islands, rural areas, areas with very low demographic impact, few people there, areas with very little infrastructure, okay? Why am I telling you this? Because if you want to set up a business in Europe, and you set up a business in one of these territories, you may be granted aids. So the state and the European Union, with the structural funds, grant you aids, give you money for it. They, you know, you don't raise your hand, I want to open up a company in Greece, give me 100,000 euro, because nobody will do it. But you can apply for this money, and you provide a business plan, and Europe, together with the Greek authorities, will give you up to 75% of what you need to set up a company, to buy your machinery, whatever, immovable property, the place where you want to operate, to buy anything that you need to, whether it's, you know, depending on the business. All the facilities that you need. The state and the European Union together, they contribute for it, okay? And this is cohesion policy. But you see, there's somewhere a contradiction between state aids, prohibition, and cohesion policy. Because on one hand, the European Union is saying, you shouldn't grant state aids because competition is distorted. On the other hand, the European Union says, you should grant state aids to the disadvantaged territories. And where is the balance? The balance is that there is a map in Europe that is every 7 years is updated, in which the whole territory of the European Union is divided into objectives, what we call objectives, which is, what's the poorest area? Lithuania, okay, objective 1. Then we have Italy. Used to be south of Italy, relatively undeveloped. Now it's grown a little bit, and so it's no longer an objective 1. Let's grant objective 2. Then we have a province in northern Portugal which has infrastructure problems. That's objective 3. So this money go primarily to objective 1, priority 1, then to objective 2, then to objective 3. How does that work? It works like this. You set up a company in objective 1 territory, the state and the European Union give you up to 75% of what you need. You set up a company in objective 2 territory, the state and the European Union will give you up to 50%. And then it's objective 3 up to 25%. See? So the grants given by the states vary according to the priority that is according to that territory because of a number of reasons. You see, regions which suffer from severe and permanent natural or demographic handicaps, such as northernmost regions with very low population density and islands, cross-border and mountain regions. These type of territories can be held by states and by the European Union, and that does not conflict with competition law rules prohibiting state aids. Do you follow me till here? So you have free movement of capital, of company, right of establishment rules. Then you have competition law rules that prohibit cartels, abuse of dominant positions, and so on and so forth. Then you have state aids rules, which prohibit states from helping local companies. Because, you know, states like to help local companies because local companies are made of people, and these people vote, and they will vote them when there are elections. And so, you know, states are very sensitive when it comes to helping local entrepreneurs, market players, so on and so forth. But the European Union says, if you're a party of the European Union, you can't do that because we want a single market. And if the market is common, then the local player is also competing with the out-of-state player. And if you help that player, you're going to harm the out-of-state producer. So state aid, competition law prohibition. But then you have cohesion policy, which tells and establishes that in order to limit the difference, the disparity in the development of the several different territories, then you have public aid, you have to have structural funds. You know, and structural funds are managed in a way that is concerted with states. So the European Union asks every year, let's pretend that Ukraine was part of the European Union, they would send a letter to Yanukovych and say, okay, this year, these 7 years, starting 2013, what areas in your country you want to, you know, put in high priority objective 1 and why? And Yanukovych answers saying, okay, the area in the, you know, the west is probably less developed than the east because we don't have metal factories there, because agriculture is thriving because of a number of reasons. Plus, the west is less populated. Plus, the infrastructure is probably more on the east than in the west. So let's grant the, you know, the west, the Lviv region, objective 1, and Donetsk, objective 3. Okay. Plus, what kind? But the European Union asks, what kind of other problems do you have? What is, for example, unemployment rate for women? And Yanukovych answers, well, indeed, in the south, I'll just make it up, 2/3 of women don't work. Okay, so the structural fund is managed in a way that the money goes to companies run by women. So if 100% of the capital of that company is held by women, you will not get only 50% of what you need, but you will get 90%. Because it's some sort of a bonus that the state and the European Union give for creating companies run by women as a measure to cope with women unemployment rate. The same for the youth, you know. For example, we have laws in Italy and any member state that says that if a company is set up by partners who are younger than 35 years of age, they get a bonus, an additional state grant if you're in a disadvantaged territory. Okay, so if you're objective 3, you will get this tiny little bit. If you're in objective 1 territory, you will get a fair amount of money, because the policy is these grants are given in order to compensate structural disadvantages, structural deficits. Okay? Or for example, we want to resolve the problem of infrastructure in transport. Companies operating in the railway sector get a bonus. Companies operating that build streets and highways, they get another bonus in order to provide development for them. You see how it works? Now, there is a very difficult balance again between competition law issues and cohesion policy issues. And so these rules have exceptions that have to be carefully handled, because otherwise, if you just go one way, you may harm the other good that you're trying to protect elsewhere. Another 2 or 3 words on a different issue. You see, as I was saying in the beginning, you think that Europe is a single market, that everyone is happy and can do anything they want throughout the whole area, and it's not true. For example, some of you may not know that only 1/10, so 1 out of 10, European companies export in Europe. Not outside Europe, but in Europe, okay? Which is surprising, isn't it? So you have only 1/10 of German companies who export in Spain or in France or in the Netherlands or elsewhere. The rest stay in the domestic market. Why? You have an idea? They're patriotic. They're patriotic. Maybe for France, maybe. The Germans are a little bit more open. I think they look at money more than other types of issues. No, the problem is that, of course, you have language problems. Of course, you have, for small companies, you have what we call transaction costs. If you want to sell, because also we have systems that speak the same language. France and Belgium and Luxembourg speak the same language, but they don't export. Or Austria and Germany speak the same language, but they don't export. Why is that? It's because there's other factors, some of which are administrative barriers. One good has to cope with different administrative requirements. Then you have tax regimes. Then you have contract law problems. For example, consumer protection in Austria may be higher than in Germany.